Hi, welcome to the PhD Journey Unplugged podcast. My name is Dr. Sarah Gordon. I'm the founder and the host of the show, and I'm just going to start it a little differently than I have over the past year. I'm going to do this introduction on my own, and then I will invite my guest on. So today we're actually at episode 69, which is pretty incredible to consider what this past year has looked like in terms of growth and just the journey, the evolution of the journey on the PhD Journey Unplugged podcast. So, just a little bit about myself. I have a doctorate degree in leadership in health and human performance from, excuse me, Concordia University of Chicago. I also hold a bachelor's of science in psychology from Towson University and a Master's of Arts in School Psychology from Towson University. So I went back to get my doctorate degree in my early 50s. It was definitely a pivot for me and a leap of faith. And it was something that I always wanted to study. And I decided to go back and go for it. And it was a wonderful journey. I learned so many wonderful lessons on it. And when I graduated last May, I came out of the program and I gave the commencement address at graduation last May. And I came out of the program. First of all, I loved speaking in front of an audience. I loved being a motivational speaker, using opportunity to educate. And I just came out with this feeling of wanting to launch a podcast. I didn't know exactly what else I wanted to do with it or what university I wanted to work at or, continue my research in exercise motivation. So I decided to launch a podcast. And in this past year, it has been incredible. It has been incredible that the people who have come on the show and who have trusted me and who have shared their stories. And it's just been tremendous growth all along. And that's what the show is always going to be about. It's going to be about a growth mindset, and I'm going to have guests on my show that share their stories that show what resilience looks like, that shows what it looks like to push yourself beyond the limits of what you think is possible for you to do and overcoming obstacles. And a lot of those examples come from the sports world. That's why I have a lot of guests on my show who have done things like Ironman, triathlon distance, long course distance, who've done just incredible athletic achievements because you learn a lot athletically when you push yourself beyond your limits. And so I draw a lot of parallels to the academic world and pursuing a PhD to the athletic world. And so that's where I draw a parallel there. And the voices that are on the show, they each one is so authentic and genuine, and they give us lots of lessons, lots of things to think about, and to help us grow in our own lives. So it's interesting. In episode 68, I had a Maria Simone, and she's a coach, and she's the head coach and the founder of No Endurance Coaching. It was a wonderful conversation. And I said to her, at one point, she said something about like how her identity had changed as she's getting older. And I had said to her, I kind of circled back and I said, you just said something kind of very important about identity and how it has changed. And she said, well, I know I said it quickly, but it actually was not that easy of a thing to do, to change, to allow herself to evolve as she's gotten older and to form new identities. And I had said to her, I think it'd be really interesting to come on in the fall and talk about it. Well, I went after that podcast episode, I went back to my schedule and I keep a schedule in terms of the guests I have scheduled through the summer and the topics that I want to have on the show with these guests. And lo and behold, episode 69, I had it planned to talk about identity and the identity shift and letting go of who we were and giving ourselves permission to grow and to grow into new identities. So I still want to have Maria back in the fall, but today I'm actually going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about that on episode 69 with a guest. Her name is Arwen Elaine Lawson. And we've been talking for a while now and having some really excellent conversations. We actually want to approach this as a four-part series. Originally, we were going to do two this week, two next week, and just put them out there back to back to back. But kind of knowing the volume of my show in terms of other guests and the flow, I just feel like it'll be more meaningful if we launch these like one a month for the next several months. And we really wanted to do a series of shows together. We wanted to focus on some health issues for women. But then as I think about the topics, they cut across, for everybody. So these are not just women specific topics. These are topics for everybody as we age, whether you're male or female or however you identify. We all go through different changes in our lives, and identity's a huge part of it. And a growth mindset allows us the permission to grow and to grow into new identities. So that's what Arwen and I are going to talk about today. And I'm going to invite her on into the show in a minute, but I wanted to just kind of give some background today. And I also want to introduce my guest. A lot of times they sit there while I'm talking, and I thought, I'll just try this a bit different today. So let me tell you a little bit about my guest who I'm going to introduce in a minute. Arwen is a fitness, performance, and wellness coach. Also comes from a field of design and entrepreneurship. She's a lifelong athlete who has dedicated her career to helping women in the second half of their life to elevate their performance, expand their possibilities, and rediscover what she calls their inner badass. Her mission is to help women live and feel like the amazing humans they are meant to be. And I'm reading this because these are her words, and this is how she feels about her impact in terms of helping women grow. And I think that's amazing. I think that's great. As she says, she's a lifelong athlete. Her journey began through team sports and strength training, evolving into running and triathlon as an adult. Her formal education, while it's in fashion and textile design, she earned a Master's of Science degree and discovered that her true passion and calling was in fitness, wellness, human performance, and longevity. In 2006, she founded a company called AE Fitness as a personal trainer and a business owner. Her own experiences as a runner and a triathlete have deepened her business and have helped her evolve AE Fitness and performance coaching, expanding to include endurance coaching alongside personal training. Most recently, her work has expanded again to focus on longevity, wellness, and helping clients around the world pursue not only athletic success, but vibrant, meaningful lives. What I appreciate most about Arwen's work is that she understands that performance is much more than just the race results. And talk about that all the time on the podcast. It goes so far beyond the outcomes of results. It's about your identity. It's about the journey of becoming. It's about the journey to the start line, the journey across the finish line, and who we are and who we become on those journeys. It's about resilience. I talk about resilience on this show all the time. Resilience is where we learn what we're made of when we learn not to quit and never to give up, never ever to give up. It's also about having the courage to continually evolve into the person you are becoming. So that brings us to today's conversation, episode 69, the identity shift, letting go of who we were. Before we become who we are, many of us inherit identities from our families, communities, and experiences. We are labeled different things: the quiet one, the achiever, the caretaker, the rebel, the athlete, the daughter, the son. Some of those identities serve us well. Others become stories we continue to carry long after they no longer fit who we are becoming. So we learn, and we have to learn to shed sometimes identities to grow into our authentic selves. So today, Arwen and I are going to explore the concept of nascence as we talk about identity. This is the process of beginning anew. We discuss how identity will evolve across the lifespan, the courage required to release versions of ourselves that no longer serve us, the role of self-compassion and growth, a growth mindset, and personal transformation, and the powerful question, What would we change if we permitted ourselves to become who we are truly meant to be? And let me repeat that. What would we change if we permitted ourselves to become who we are truly meant to be? So that's my introduction. I'm going to invite Arwen onto the show now to have this conversation. We're going to approach it a little bit more academically, rather than conversationally, hopefully a little bit of both. I will tell you that the first time Arwen and I got on a phone call together, I think I was driving over to Annapolis and I've talked about this before, how my chocolate lab needed ACL surgery. I was driving her about 2 hours away to the vet to get the surgery, or perhaps it was a consultation or a follow-up. But regardless, Arwen and I talked the whole way. We had just an amazing conversation for that 2 hours. And she really made an impact on me, and I'm really excited to have her on the show. And I want us to all learn from her and learn from her insights as we start this conversation together today. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for giving me this platform to educate and motivate on the PhD Journey Unplugged podcast. Hi, welcome to the PhD Journey Unplugged podcast. My name is Dr. Sarah Gordon. I'm the host and the founder of the show. And today I'm actually really excited. I have on a guest, Arwen Elaine. Arwen, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Sarah. I'm so happy to be here with you today.
We had a really nice conversation. When we first met, we got on the phone together, and I was driving over to Annapolis, Maryland, taking my dog
Mhm.
to some rehab over there. And we talked for 2 hours. We had never talked before.
No, that's right. That's right. It was some time ago, but that's right. Now that I remember, it was a long conversation. It was
Conversation.
great. Yeah, it was great.
And we had so many parallels and so many interesting experiences in our lives that were very similar.
Mhm.
And I really, I knew I wanted to have you on the show. I don't know that much about you, but from that conversation, I knew, this is somebody that I feel very connected to based on kind of our journeys through life.
Mhm.
And so we started to talk about, well, okay, what could we bring to this platform? This platform is always to educate and motivate people to live their best lives. I always have people on the show that have overcome things in their lives, that have
Mhm.
chosen not to give up, that have chosen to push themselves beyond limits, beyond the obstacles, have
Mhm.
used things in their lives as setbacks to grow and to create a better version of themselves, right? We're always bigger than the setbacks.
Absolutely.
And and when you and I started to talk about some of the things that we've gone through throughout our lives, it was very clear to me that we both understood that.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes.
So we originally, just to let our listeners know, we originally came up with a four-part series, and we were going to kind of put them out one after another. And then we decided, no, let's just slow down a bit, and we'll put one out one a month. And we have some great ideas on what that's going to look like. But for today, we wanted to talk about identity and identity shift and giving ourselves permission to grow through these different stages of our lives and through these different experiences in our lives that challenge us, continually challenge us
Yes.
to give up or to grow and keep moving forward. So
Mhm.
today, that's what Arwen and I are going to talk about. We're going to talk about, and this is episode 69 together. We're getting close to 70. Can't believe it.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I mean,
That's
this is a new
amazing.
identity, podcaster. You
Yeah.
know?
Love it. It suits you.
Thank you. I really truly, and I mean this from my heart, I enjoy the conversations. I learn so much from people such as yourself, I think it's a great platform to teach people to live their best lives, like I said. So today we're going to talk about identity. And I guess I want to start, Arwen, today. And when we were on the phone together, you mentioned a word to me that I really was not familiar with. So I want to talk
Oh,
about it
okay.
today.
Sure.
And it's that the word is nascence.
Oh, yes. Yep. One of my favorites. I think they call those 50-cent words, right?
Yeah, and I thought, well, that's a cool word. What does
Yeah.
that even mean? So we're
Yeah.
going to talk about that in terms of what that means as we
Mhm.
talk about identity. And why is this conversation even important? Because when we talk about identity, we talk about aligning our lives to our authentic self. And
Absolutely.
and it isn't necessarily one identity. We can have multiple identities and it can
Hmm.
change. And so we're gonna just kind of we're gonna really dive into this.
Cool.
We're gonna learn from you today. And I thought it would be
And
fun.
you.
Okay. And I thought it would be fun to ask each other some fun questions to kind of frame it and then get
Sure.
into kind of the academics of the conversation.
Bring it.
Okay. 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 So here's the first question. Arwen, if someone had asked you at age 18 who you would become, how different would your answer have been from the life you are living today?
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that
Uh,
a great question?
yeah, that is a great question. I would have to say the first word that came to mind was radically different. It just completely. My formal education is in design,
Mm-hmm.
and I actually went through 8 years to get two degrees in design. That's how on board with that I was. I had in my head that I was going to be a creative in the world, and so I aligned myself and my formal education to that goal. At the same time, though, I was always an athlete. So from a very young age, so I was sort of had sort of two parallel existences, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And so I finished school and I tried with all of my might to land a job in New York City because I studied fashion and textiles. So I moved up to where I presently live, and it was I found it was a lot harder to try and land a job than, or at least a full-time job. I got contract jobs or whatever. So in the meantime, when I was trying to pay the bills, I decided to become a trainer, a personal trainer, and that's where my life kind of took a 90-degree turn, if you will, and my career kind of that just it was like water. I mean, it was just what water. It was like flowing. It just was so easy for me to become that become that and grow into it, and that's where I am now. So I realized, I guess, my calling, one I consider my vocation, and the other is my avocation, I guess.
That's cool. I
Yeah.
love that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would say at 18, I always it's funny because I always admired people that had their PhDs.
Oh, okay.
And
Yeah.
I remember saying to somebody back then, I'm going to get my PhD one day. I mean, I didn't go back for it until I was 53. And and
Wow.
honestly, I never really felt like I was good enough to do it. I never felt like I was a good enough student or I belonged there in that
Mhm.
space. And so my identity at 18 was kind of like a shy, like, in terms of academics, I was kind of like a shy student, didn't really feel like I
Mhm.
was good enough. And the fact that I'm here now and I did it and I completed it, it's very empowering. I think that's the thing. When you start to align your life, give yourself permission to grow. And like you
Yes.
said, like water, like flow towards something that you
Mhm.
really truly love and feels like your calling or your purpose.
Yes.
It's very empowering.
It's completely. It's like without it actually being that way, you feel like the whole world is behind you, like, yes, go, take
Right.
it, go with it.
Right.
It's like it, but there's no crowd there. No, it's silent, but it just, yeah, I agree with that 100%. You
And
just feel the world is encouraging you
yeah, and
to
I don't
do.
want to get too much into like all of, talking about identity. I just want to
Hmm.
kind of go through the questions. But I think as you make those shifts in your life, you still question yourself. It isn't like you just, the confidence is there. You're
Right,
still
yeah.
growing and evolving through that whole process.
I always feel like, in this life, if you're not growing, you're dying, basically. And I don't mean that literally, but it's, you're constantly learning and constantly evolving. And if you decide, I guess, or you shut that part off, you kind of, I think you kind of start to wither as a
Yeah,
person, you know?
I agree with that. That's
Yeah.
true. I I just did a live reel yesterday to kind of talk about this episode and promote this episode. And I kind of said some similar things along those lines. We should always kind of have a growth mindset
Yes.
throughout the lifespan because we're
Hmm.
living organisms. We don't live like in a static state.
Right.
So we need to give ourselves permission to continue to grow.
Yes.
Okay, second question.
Okay.
A little bit similar. What
Mhm.
identities did that younger version of you never see coming?
Hmm.
It's a little obtuse. It's hard, but
Yeah, that's a
or
tough one.
abstract. I guess that's the better
Yeah.
one.
Wait, can you repeat that one more time?
What
Sorry.
identity from our younger selves or younger
Yeah.
versions do we never see coming? What I guess a better way to ask it is what surprises you about yourself now?
Now, well, I will say that, and I think when you and I were doing the preparation for this episode, I had it's mentioned something about in the notes about how identities are kind of given to you as a child when you're a child within the family structure. You're given sort of given identities, and you have identities within your family structure, but then as you grow out of that and you grow into an adult, your identities usually, like I would say more times than not, they probably do change. But I will tell you that the identities that I had as a kid were largely given to me by my parents and I have an older sibling, an older brother, and I think the identities that they gave to me back then followed me through until I realized, like, no, this is not who I am. And there, even though they always said, oh, well, you're this and this, there was always a little voice inside of my head that said, no, I'm not that. I am this. And it's funny, I one of those identities, or I should say, is that my parents and my family always sort of thought of me as like the cute little, like I was the baby of the family, and but I had always believed that there was like a superhero inside of me. And
Okay.
I have a photo and I was trying to locate it, and I will locate it. I believe my parents have it, but they have a picture of me when I was like 5, and I'm wearing like a turtleneck shirt and tights, and they're the same color, they're red. And I made a little like Superman badge, and I used to run around the house with my mom's like cape around me, and I used to run around the house and I pinned this thing to my shirt, and I was the Red Rocket. I kid you not. And so I always had this envision that I was a superhero inside of me. And but they didn't see that way. So there was that. And so now, as a coach, I encourage women to find that inner superhero that resides inside them, or to discover, because I believe everyone has one, maybe not in the traditional sense, but underlying what you're talking about with empowerment and things like that, like pull
Yeah,
that identity out.
not to get us too far off topic because I have a habit
Mhm.
of doing. I mean, I need to stay
Yeah,
on on my
of
outline here.
course.
But how do you help people? How do you help people find that?
Um, well, through a couple of ways. Through coming up with working with them to come up with a roadmap for them to get from where they are, point A, to where they want to be, point B, and sort of cheerleading them on along the way as they go, and also
Mhm.
being the accountability partner.
Hmm.
So, yes, I'm going to hold your hand, but I'm going to hold you to it to get the work done.
Yeah.
And and with that, I say, you can do it. It's okay. You can do it. Um, I know that for a lot of people, adhering to an exercise regimen or, training for a triathlon or a marathon or what have you, it can be a very daunting prospect. And I'm here to help break it down for them and take it step by step by step, so that once they get there at point B, it's kind of like, look what you did. You did it.
Yeah, it's very empowering. And I would imagine it would be interesting, my researcher hat, to do a
Hmm.
study that and come up with some type of instrument where you ask people how they identify, who, what do they, maybe talk about like the family structure, the arc, the foundations of our identity are formed
Hmm.
very early on
Yeah.
in our family structures. And some of us carry those throughout our lives. We never give ourselves the opportunity to shed them to create new
Yeah.
identities. So it would be interesting to see what people bring to this desire to want to grow as an athlete, a triathlete, a
Hmm.
marathon runner, and
Or just
then
a person,
you're right.
just
Wouldn't
a
that be
regular
interesting?
person.
Yeah, that would be actually a very interesting study to see how that would
Hmm.
evolve. Well, I'm glad you started with that, the family system, because I have some notes and a comment here. Before we ever choose who we are, someone else often tells us who we are,
Hmm.
right?
Yep.
We're the smart one, we're the responsible one, we're, I mean, we get a lot of externals,
Oh, yeah.
um, to reinforce these, you know, identities in our childhood. So the question then becomes is how do we let go of those old identities and allow new ones to flourish? And I tend to think that we can do that. I I just think physical activity is a great way to
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
find yourself
Hmm.
through life transitions. But what do you think? How can we suggest to people, how do we shed these old identities that we have from our childhoods?
Um, well, I mean, obviously that takes you, it has to take a desire, an inherent desire on your part. And I believe that both of us, have done that. You have to kind of, it requires a lot of introspection and focus
Yes.
for that to happen. But more to the point, and in doing that, sometimes you unearth some scary things and maybe some things that are not yet that you don't find desirable, and you have to kind of wrestle with that.
Hmm.
But going back to something you mentioned earlier, I think you have to give yourself the permission to do that as well. You have to want to do it, and then you have to give yourself permission to say, you know what, I'm gonna turn things inward, and I'm gonna dig through it and perhaps go through some icky things that you may find.
No, I understand what you're saying because I think so this conversation and the reason we're having this conversation is because we want to encourage people to live their best lives. We
Yep.
want people to be doing things that they truly enjoy doing,
Hmm.
work, studying, academically, athletically, whatever it is that you enjoy doing,
Sure.
right? We want you to live fulfilling lives. And if we stay stuck in these kind of old identities, if we're just talking about like what we get from our family systems or from our childhood,
Hmm.
I believe there are people who carry those throughout their whole life.
Yes.
And I think what you're saying, and maybe even spend their whole adult life kind of feeling trapped in it,
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
right? So what
yeah,
you're saying, just real quick,
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
just is that sometimes like listen, therapy, having, a coach, whatever you need, whatever resources you need to look inward to transform, to move your life into a direction that has meaning and purpose for yourself, that I think that's what you're saying is sometimes you got to dig a little deeper
Mhm,
and you have to let go of things that didn't serve you very well
mhm.
as you grow into your adulthood.
Yeah, I think so. And what I was going to also say to underline what the points you were making earlier is that it really depends. I mean, yes, you start with with the family system, but then, you are also given identities in whatever community you engage in.
True.
So
School.
when you go to elementary
Right.
school, that you are given an identity from your schoolmates, your classmates,
Hmm.
and that can change. Oftentimes it does when you finish, like say you go and you choose to go to college, if you choose to do that. If you choose to go to work, you are given an identity from, whatever community that you engage in, you will always sort of be given an identity. But I also think it's important that when you have that empowered sense of self, you walk into the room and say, "This is who I am."
That takes a
You
lot,
know?
that takes growth.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. And
100%.
pushing ourselves outside the comfort zone.
hmm
And I,
I have learned, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
no, no, no,
interrupt you,
that's
but
okay.
because what I just want to piggyback on what you were saying. Growth occurs in when you're uncomfortable. It doesn't happen when you're not. When you're feeling safe, which is fine. It's a fine place to be, but the growth happens when you're in a state of discomfort. And that I learned that through being a triathlete, that you don't get better until you do the hard training sessions, those threshold intervals, things like that. Those are where the change happens, and they suck. Truthfully, they suck because, it hurts, it's painful, all of that. That's a physical representation, but it also, I believe, can be translated to psychologically as well.
I
That
agree.
you have to become uncomfortable and want to make that change.
And
Yeah.
I hear that theme over and over and over and over from the guests I invite on this show. And because we never know who's listening that doesn't really understand that. There's just, I strongly suggest going back and listening to some of these past episodes in addition to this one, because you
Mhm.
hear the same things about, you know, the hard, we can learn so much in the hard, right? Don't be scared of the hard, you
No.
know?
Yep.
Um, push yourself outside your comfort zone. You learn so much about it. I just had Maria Simone on episode 68, No
Oh,
Limits Endurance Coaching.
yep.
She just said exactly what you just said. So, and
Yeah.
I think that
She's very good athlete, Maria.
yeah,
Very, very good athlete. Yes.
she
Definitely.
it was such a great conversation. And so anyhow, okay. Now, so we understand that we kind of have these identities that are formed very early on, whether within community, within family, wherever you pick them up. Somebody tells you when you're very young, you're not good at math, and then you stay away from math. That
hmm
happened to me the rest of your life, and I still to this day, I'm not good at math.
hmm
It's sad, right? I need to shed that and learn
hmm
math. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? But I mean, we learn these things very early on. Okay.
Yep.
Now we want to talk about how do we start to shed that? How do we start to look at identity and then authenticity? How do we start to move our lives towards more alignment and towards becoming more authentically ourselves? That's kind of a question.
Oh, okay.
So,
So your question is
how do
how do
we
you
how do we
I would have to
know? Like, let's
sorry, go
talk,
ahead.
it's like a transformation. How do we know to now start, like you left the designer textile world and you
Hmm.
gravitated towards personal training and
Hmm.
now you're coaching, endurance coaching. How do we know, how do we start that process? How do we know when or how to start that process?
I think that probably, I mean, I can't speak for everybody, obviously, but I think that you it starts with within you. Like I want to say it's like a maybe for lack of a better way of putting it, it's a little voice that tells you like something ain't right here. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
you just feel this sense of discord and then that you can either like live with it, you know, it's kind of like a little nagging injury. You're like, oh, something kind of feel hurts a
It
little
feels
bit,
off.
you know?
It feels
Yeah,
off.
yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
And then I think obviously the onus is on you to start to dig. No one else can really, certainly a therapist can help and they can help kind of help you go down those rabbit holes that you need to go down, but you need to go down them in order to, you know, I mean, this is all, it's all introspection. It's not, you know, you can either choose to seize that your identity and say, this is who I am, or let somebody else dictate who you are.
Yeah.
And that's sort of the choice that you're faced with.
I like that. Like, pay attention. Like, there was a graphic that I saw years ago, and I always loved it. Like, pay attention to what makes you feel most alive,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Yes.
It's subtle sometimes. It could
Hmm.
be being out in nature, and you just
Yeah.
feel most alive in nature, right?
Hmm.
So if you're sitting in an office building in a city and you have no time out in nature, and you're not finding, nature walks or going for bike rides or anything like that out in nature, like I don't know. It's just something that like I notice for myself. Like I
Hmm.
feel most alive, out in the elements, right?
Yeah.
I
Yep.
can't be in industrial lighting. I can't be like in an institutional setting. I gotta
Yep.
be out in the elements. That's where I feel most aligned. And I really had to work hard to move myself out of working in the government, out of
Hmm.
these big office buildings and into a space where was catching a sunrise this morning and talking about it on social media.
Yeah.
So I think that to move towards more authenticity, ask yourself, I wouldn't, I don't know if it's like unhappiness in what you're sitting in that propels you to transform, but there's got to be some type of catalyst to
Hmm.
want to
Yep.
change. And so the only way I can offer a suggestion for people is to if you're really searching for change, is to pay attention to where you feel most alive. I
I
also
agree with
think it
that.
happens naturally. I think we transform us naturally. You can go from like student to professor, athlete like yourself to coach,
Hmm.
doctoral student to scholar.
There you go.
We can
Yeah.
transform kind of naturally too as we grow in our skill sets.
I think that there's an important ingredient that needs to be present for that to happen as well, and that is um the wisdom to recognize when something doesn't quite fit, you know, and it's like I said, it's like that little voice that tells you something's off,
Something's
you
off.
know. Um, and the wisdom is, you know, generally speaking, you're not your authentic self when you're younger because you're younger. You have
Right.
to experience things and experience life. And I think as you get older and you get that maturity and that you develop that wisdom, that's when you can say, you know, um, something's not right here. I need to figure out what it is.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And it just comes back to growth and
Hmm.
and put, like you said, pushing ourselves outside our comfort zones and
Yeah.
just and just trusting sometimes, like none of us know, like we don't have, a clear vision of what the future looks like. We can only go with how we feel today, and just
That's all
trusting
we
that,
have. You
right?
don't have tomorrow. It's
Right,
not guaranteed. That's all
right.
you have.
So I like how you said in the beginning, small steps forward, move your life,
Hmm.
towards the direction that feels more aligned. Okay, so let's move into the work of Kristen Neff. Now, you brought this to me. I'm not that familiar with it. I
Hmm.
just have a couple little notes here, but I'll let you kind of lead us through this. And I guess it's the stories that we inherit, or the story. I
Hmm.
guess it's all goes back to like this formation of identity, you
Hmm.
know, the stories the beliefs and stories about ourselves that are actually never really ours. They come from other people. So
Yeah.
how do we practice self-compassion in that transformation based on the
Well,
work
that's
that has
what
been done?
Kristen Neff is an academic who
Okay.
basically, yeah, that's kind of her thing is having compassion towards yourself. And um that is part, I think, holds hands with giving yourself the permission. And when things get difficult, when you're in that place, that difficult place, having the um, ha having the ability to put your arms around yourself, metaphorically speaking, to say, it's okay, you'll be okay.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I I can speak to this pretty well because, and I still fight with it to this day, but I have a awful inner critic that I call the taskmaster. And the taskmaster inside of me is not always kind. I've learned to calm it down a little bit, but it was always, it drove a lot of my behavior when I was younger. And because I felt like if I didn't listen to that and didn't do, then I wasn't worthy, or I wasn't a good person, or and it still lives in my head. It will probably always live in my head, but now I have learned through having self-compassion, and it has taken a long time for me to allow that to happen. But yeah, I that's an important ingredient as well, is being kind to yourself, because transformation is not easy, and it's very easy to beat yourself up. A lot of people I work with, that's their sort of go-to, is that they'll say, oh, I'm terrible. I can't figure this out. I can't adhere to the exercise regimen. I can't get my nutrition right. I can't do this. I can't do that. And it's like, no, no, it's okay. You're human, you'll make it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I appreciate you being honest and a little bit vulnerable and sharing that. Because I think a lot of us struggled with that,
Mm.
that
No doubt.
we're not,
Yeah.
for me, it's always, just not good enough. I'm like, I
Hmm.
get a PhD and I'm like, well, it's not enough. Like, why is my inner voice telling me it's never
Yeah.
enough?
Yep.
And so practicing, um, some self-compassion and celebrating an achievement, versus like this taskmaster, like you got to go to the next thing,
Yeah.
is very, I'm not sure where those stories come from. I'm not sure how I inherit them. So maybe that, with therapy, I can figure that out. But I think that it's such a good point that we limit here's what it is. We limit ourselves by the
Hmm.
stories that we tell us. And I
Hmm.
guess Kristen Neff is saying, like, let's give ourselves some self-compassion. Let's shed however we picked it up, the judgment, the criticism,
Hmm.
all that kind of negative self-talk,
Hmm.
right? When your athletes come to you and they say, I can't do this, it's just negative self-talk.
Yep.
how do we let that go and allow ourselves to grow
Hmm.
and to just transform our lives. So
Yeah.
that's I think you got to do some type of journaling, inner some type of reflection, therapy. I
Hmm.
think you got to spend some time trying to figure out what is the roadblock, what's limiting you.
Yeah. I think also, this is one thing that I am very, when I work with either a client, which I call them clients and athletes. A client is somebody who may not have an athletic goal, a specific athletic goal like a triathlete or a runner or somebody that I coach that way in that way. Um, but um, the important thing here is that everybody is individual and everybody has what I call their own recipe.
Hmm.
And
I like that.
yeah, and I mean, yes, some people journal, some people go speak to a therapist, some people watch YouTube videos, some
Yeah,
people,
right.
I mean, there's a wealth of information out there, and you have to sort of go through it and figure out what way works best for you. And that's what I do when I work with my clients and athletes is I let them sort of I say you're the driver, I'm the passenger. I'm telling you, I'm the navigator. I tell you where we're going to go, but you have to drive the bus.
Hmm.
So, and that is letting them figure out what works best for them in terms of how, their own growth and development. Everybody sort of learns differently and everybody as I say, they have their own recipe. So part of it is discovering what that is and then, sticking by it and implementing it.
That's what makes you a great coach
Mm.
because you understand the
Thank you.
individual. Yeah, because
Hmm.
we're individuals.
Yeah.
So, I
Yes.
mean, there's certain things that we know work, but then at the end of the day, everybody comes to the table with their own set of circumstances
100%.
and physiology,
Yeah. Yep.
right?
Yep.
We
I
don't
mean,
all
it's
respond the same
crazy.
way,
We all have the same equipment.
right?
But yet, I mean, it's the difference between like I can't stand truffles. I can't stand them. The smell makes me like, but yet the next person sitting next to me, I don't know, do you like
Loves them.
truffles? I don't know.
I mean, like the candy truffles
No,
or
well, truffles, mushrooms. Truffles are
mushrooms.
like a mushroom.
I don't really even know.
Oh, okay, that's okay.
I don't like chocolate.
Oh, see, there you go.
I
See?
can't chocolate
Oh, I
just
love it. Yeah,
I
see? See?
so you can't use that as a reward for me.
Yeah. No, I got it. Yeah. I got it. I would never.
Not
Wouldn't
even
think of
dark
it.
chocolate.
Okay. All right.
No, but I do think the point I think is that which makes you a good coach. And I hear it, from a lot of
Hmm.
guests on my show who are just really stellar human beings is it's not a one size fits all when when we're
No.
trying to grow,
Yeah.
we're trying to live our best lives.
Yep.
It's very individualized.
It
So
is. And we all sort of follow a different path, even
yeah,
though we're all sort of going in the same direction.
yes,
But everybody's path is very different.
it's very
And you
true.
have to respect that.
I love these conversations.
Great, right?
They're fun. They can be academic and they can
Mhm.
be very philosophical too. And
Mm.
I tend to, love that. So,
Yeah. Love it.
okay, moving on. My next note is mindset and identity in and I know we're kind of touching on all these because it kind of all overlaps,
It
but
does. Yeah.
mindset and identity influence each other. So now we're going to talk the work. We're going to talk about the work of Carol. Is it Dweck?
Dweck, yeah, Carol
Okay.
Dweck, yeah. Another academic.
Okay.
Um, but she is all about like what you're all about. Like she is all about the growth mindset and
Okay.
having that and finding out what that is for you what is a growth mindset for you, for each individual person,
Mhm.
and maintaining that and living in that so that you can continue to like it's keeping yourself open and
Yourself
allowing
open.
yourself, it's the permission, right? What
Mhm.
we were talking about
Yeah.
earlier, and it's allowing yourself to be open to receiving. And that's really what I think a growth mindset is sort of being allowing yourself, being conscious of it, and allowing yourself to be consciously open to receiving. Um,
I agree. And
mhm,
and I say this often because failure doesn't feel very good, right? We're not just like shedding old identities, creating new lives, transforming, growing, and it's everything's so great. Okay, sometimes you fumble and sometimes you fail, and it doesn't feel too good either. Like
mhm,
growing can be about failure too, but we have to understand that's a good thing. I know it
mhm.
feels uncomfortable. Nobody wants to feel that way, but we
So,
learn so much in it.
oh, 100%. 20 years in triathlon has taught me that. Um, and that is you learn so much more from your failures. Remember, I was telling you about the taskmaster,
Mhm.
right? So if I didn't win my age group or I didn't podium in a race, it was, the taskmaster would come out and, you know, tell me all kinds of negative, bad things and, oh, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, and so on and so forth. But 20 years in the sport has taught me that those thoughts are there, but not to berate you.
Mhm.
It's for you to learn from them and say, okay, well, I'm not going to do that next time. I'm
Mhm.
not going to. Certainly in a race, there are certain things that you can't control. There are certain, conditions that happen. If the water is very choppy in the swim, or I remember one time I broke a chain when I was on the bike. I broke the chain and I'm riding and I'm like hammering, and all of a sudden like it's super easy and I'm like I look down and I'm like, where's my chain? I left it
What,
back in Central Park somewhere on Central Park.
so
So
what did you do in that situation? Just curious.
oh, that I stopped obviously because I realized I had no chain, and I walked across Central Park back to the start line of the race, and I DNF'd. I mean,
What are you gonna do?
yeah, exactly. I mean, so you could construe that as a failure, okay? But how was I going to know that how could I possibly have known that my chain was going to break in that
Yeah,
race?
you have to
You
be
know?
adaptable.
Exactly.
We
But
talk
I
about that a
but
lot on the
but you
show.
learn these are the things that you learn,
Mhm.
and you learn by doing. And I used to think of failures as being, these are things you want to avoid. And I've learned that no, no, these are the things that you learn from
Mhm.
so that you become better next time. In
True.
actual fact, I mean, I haven't really won a lot of races, but I have won races. And those are when everything, I call it the stars align. Everything is perfect. You slept well the night before, you ate great the next morning, and it just everything aligns, but you don't learn anything from it. It's very fulfilling, but you don't
Oh,
really learn anything from it, you see.
interesting.
hmm You learn from the failures. So I've learned that from that, and I take everything that I have learned in triathlon with me into life. And because triathlon is really sort of metaphorical for life for me, that if I fail at something, or I don't live up to the expectation, then it's like, okay, it's no longer you're a horrible person. Why didn't you do this? Why it's what can I learn from it? And that's I've learned to embrace failures for that reason.
That's awesome. I always have these moments where if you watch me, sometimes I get super
Ah.
quiet because I learn so much from my guests.
Mm-hmm.
And I really love what you just said. So I have a couple notes here, still within this mindset and identity, how they both
Mhm.
influence each other. They might be your notes. I'm just reading them back.
Well, that's okay. It's totally cool.
And let me tell our audience, Arwen put a lot of thought into this. She really did. I have to tell you, I would send some ideas, and then you would really take the time to send back thoughtful content and suggestions for how to shape this episode today. So I
Hmm.
really appreciate that. You did.
Oh,
And you
my
pushed
pleasure.
me a while ago to start thinking about it. I was like, I'll get to it. I'll get to it, you know?
Yeah.
So I appreciate your patience with me.
Again, triathlon has helped me with that
Coach. Yeah.
in terms of preparation. Like
Yeah.
you have to be prepared. You have to do a lot of preparation, especially in the day and hours leading up to when you race. There's a
Yeah.
lot of preparation that needs to be done. And again, I've taken that into life and it's like I don't want to I want to at least try my best to not be unprepared. I know that's like
Yeah.
a quadruple negative, but it's so yeah, so for me it was sort of like, well, you sent me some notes and it's like, well, I don't want to be unprepared for this. So,
Yeah,
you
I
know,
appreciate it. I understand it now, and I'm really grateful for it. So
oh,
thank you.
good.
Yeah, you
Oh,
pushed
I'm
me.
glad. I'm
You did. You
glad.
pushed me. So
Oh,
thanks.
good.
Thanks, coach.
Happy to do
I can
that.
tell.
Happy to do
Okay.
that.
So here's some notes. Alignment and let me see. Get back on track here.
Yeah,
Having a
no.
growth mindset creates I think this was your word. I had actually never seen this word either.
Yeah.
Fecund? It's
Oh,
like a rich
fecund. Yes.
fecund.
Another 50-cent word.
I mean, nascence, fecund. We're gonna get to
Yeah.
nascence. And
That's fertile.
fertile. Okay.
Yeah.
Environment in which we can shed identities that don't serve us and foster and bolster identities which do. So
Yeah.
this is it. Okay. This creates alignment. Identity influences mindset. So we
Hmm.
can go from I am not athletic, which creates I don't think I can do hard things,
Hmm. Right.
but mindset influencing identity, we can say I can so let me just make sure I was clear there.
Hmm.
If identity is influencing mindset, okay? My
Hmm.
identity is telling me I'm not athletic. I don't think I can do hard things.
Hmm.
When mindset influences identity, we are going from I can learn, which creates I am becoming someone capable.
Hmm.
So see the difference there?
Totally.
Identity tells us, like you said, some of your female athletes that come
Hmm.
to whatever it is and say, I can't do this.
Hmm.
Okay, because I'm not athletic,
Right. Or I
because I've
don't know
been
what to do.
because I've been told that,
Hmm.
you know, women can't fight and play in the mud,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Mindset, which I've always loved to do, just for the record, everybody.
Hmm.
Mindset mindset tells us I can do it. I'm gonna do it. I believe in myself. It's called self-efficacy theory.
Hmm.
Self-efficacy theory. We
Hmm.
believe in ourselves. And then we become someone capable of those beliefs, right?
Yep.
So I think that's really interesting to make that distinction between those
Hmm.
two. Mhm.
Yeah. Yep, I agree.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, moving on. This is a good one. Boy, I know this one.
Mm.
Okay, let's see where we are in this. We're getting through it. Okay.
Hmm.
Imposter syndrome
Ugh. I.
as as evidence of growth. The work of Seth
Godin. Hmm.
Godin. Okay.
Yes. Yep.
Tell us about the work of Seth Godin, and then let's talk about imposter syndrome.
So Seth Godin is he comes from the world of the internet and and basically that's where he spent most of his career earlier years. And he basically he worked for Yahoo and he so that's sort of his area. And then over time he sort of became more of an author, and now he's sort of known as a marketing expert. But And that being in business for myself, that sort of like I was like, oh, you got to read Seth Godin's books, or you've got to watch Seth Godin, and I sort of was led to him initially by that, like, oh, well, he's a great marketing mind. But as I have devoured his content, and I haven't read all of his books, he's written 21 bestsellers, I think. I have found him to be just as he's a good marketer because he understands people. He has a very good understanding of how people behave and how they choose something and how what motivates them to. He's done an awful lot of work in that area, and I find that's more interesting to me than the tactics to make your business better, or
Okay.
to attract the correct target, your target audience, or something
Okay.
like that. So he's become kind of a mentor of mine, as he is of a lot of people. But he was asked about like imposter syndrome, and his words were, I think it was, yeah, you that it's uh, that we all suffer from it, that it's part of the human condition. It's part of our nature as humans to feel that. And he even said he suffers from it and still suffers from it to this day,
Hmm.
which I find, like mind blowing that,
Right. It's so
somebody
complex.
of, yeah,
Right.
somebody of his stature or what have you, can feel that. But he said, and his words, and I quote his words, unless you are a megalomaniac and an idiot, you're gonna suffer from imposter syndrome. And that made me feel a lot better because I've certainly felt. I think when you're younger and in the earlier years in your career, that tends to happen to you a lot more than when you get older and you have spent time in your career and you have developed that wisdom, that you're able to kind of manage that a little bit better. Um, but yeah, you have to embrace it and understand it, and not let it not let it dictate your life, not let it influence your decision making, that you have to kind of put that voice to the side.
Yeah, I agree. I think that I kind of want to say newness is right for imposter syndrome.
Oh yeah.
So
Hmm.
anytime you're new at something,
Hmm.
you can feel that way. But what I would like to say to remember that it's all about, again, growth mindset, pushing yourself
Yep.
outside your comfort zone, trying new things. So remind yourself that in that space of newness, that's growth. And
Hmm. Oh yeah.
be patient with yourself in that new identity and that new, version of yourself and the new things that you're learning and the new opportunities that you're seeking, the new jobs, the new races, the new,
Hmm. Yeah.
the new academic program,
Sure.
becoming a new PhD, like I remember speaking with a friend, we just got our doctorates. We're like, really, we just don't feel like that yet. Like if it's the first time somebody
Hmm.
called me Dr. Gordon, I was like, well, that's my father. That's not me. I mean, it just didn't even feel
I
like,
think I called you that first too. When
yeah,
I first reached out to you, as Dr. Gordon.
right. It still feels weird. So it's
Hmm.
think, so and then I read somewhere, well, you know what? Don't feel odd about it. You worked hard for it. Like just
Hmm.
embrace it and just embrace. But I think the point there is that, again, it goes back to imposter syndrome. Instead of us looking at it as a problem, let's look at it as evidence of growth.
Hmm.
Let's remind ourselves that this means that I'm growing. This is a
Yeah.
good thing.
Yes.
And so that's how we can push ourselves through it and not, again, let us stall us or present roadblocks to continue to move on.
To reference what you were going back to what we said earlier, imposter syndrome is that discomfort, that uncomfortableness that
Yeah.
you feel when you need to grow. It's
Yeah.
that discomfort. That's one aspect of it. There's many aspects of it, but that certainly is one for sure.
It's such a great, this is such a great conversation. This is for anybody. I don't know who listens to this across the globe. I don't know, we don't know what age you're at or where you are in your life, but these are things that can help us throughout the lifespan,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Graduating high school, going to college. Everything's new. You feel like you don't fit in. Graduating college, going to your first job. You're the new kid on the block,
Hmm.
right?
Yep.
Changing jobs, starting a family, new parent,
Hmm.
all these
Oh yeah.
identities that we form throughout our lives,
Yep.
we're always going to have some beginning.
Hmm.
And imposter syndrome might show up. So what
Sure.
Arwen and I are saying is, and the work of Seth is, and how do you say his last name again?
Godin.
Godin. I need to
Hmm.
study that a little bit more. I apologize, but
Yeah.
it's to just embrace it because it's all
Mhm.
about growth. And those are good things. We want to continually grow across the lifespan. We never want to give up.
I
There
like
are
in the in
100-year-olds that are still growing,
Oh yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So
Yeah,
we want that across the lifespan.
100%. Yep.
Yeah.
I liken the your identities as like shoes, if I may use hearken
Yeah.
back to my fashion background. They're like a pair of shoes. And sometimes when you wear them, you first put them on, they don't feel very comfortable, and you may get some blisters or hot spots or what have you. And then over time, you break them in and they feel better. And then it becomes that pair of shoes
Your
that you
best friend.
yeah. Your
Yeah.
go-to.
However, I'm going to add,
Hmm.
don't get too comfortable in your old pair of shoes,
Yes. Yes.
because they lose the support, they lose the
They do
padding.
wear
Then
out.
you might
Yes.
need to get another new pair, which
Yep.
case
Yep. Agreed.
you have to
Agreed.
push yourself outside your comfort zone again. I love that.
Yes. Yeah.
I
Yep.
love that
It's
analogy.
cyclical, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it really
Yeah.
is. There's the
Yeah.
philosophical part of this conversation
Hmm.
again. It is very cyclical
Hmm.
if we allow ourselves it to be. You know,
Hmm.
we have to keep
Yes.
ourselves open for it.
Yep.
Okay, which brings us to the next topic.
Hmm.
And I don't know a lot about this, so I'm looking forward to learning from you on this. Identity theory in performance psychology.
Hmm.
Okay, what is that? What does that mean?
Okay, so I mean, performance psychology, certainly, as I noted here, in athletics, it's front and center because that is what, you're being athletic, engaging in an athletic pursuit of some kind, obviously your performance is what is, it's front and center, right?
Right,
But I also
being
think that
measured.
performance psychology exists in your job, in your career trajectory. Um, uh, as I think I said, yeah, making a presentation on the job, entertaining and cooking a holiday meal for, like, if you have 15 people over, there is a certain amount of performance psychology in that. Like,
Mhm.
what am I going to cook? How am I going to prepare it? How am I going to serve it? Um, you know, a job interview. I think yes, a job interview, appearing on a podcast. I mean, all of these things. So, and you take your, just like anything, it's like your shoes, you wear your shoes, you have your identity and you bring it with you. And uh, I think that the two, like the performance and the identity, they hold hands. One affects the other. And like I said, as in when you're working with athletes, it's it's that is all encompassing as opposed to something like, like I said, like using the cooking the meal.
Hmm.
It's much less so. You don't really think, how am I going to do this? But you still, that is an aspect of performance psychology is,
Okay.
and it can affect it. I believe it can affect it. It weaves its way through most everything you do in life, I think.
So here's a question then, as I'm trying to
Mhm.
understand this.
Yeah,
And I have a couple questions about it actually.
sure.
So I think it's interesting.
Mhm.
How does preparation impact? Like, because we know when you prepare for something, hopefully you perform better,
Mhm.
right? So through preparation, does that help us create these new identities? Like, is it through like skills and practice and like, because I had this one question I just think is really interesting and it's going to push us to think a little bit, but
Mhm.
can we focus on performance, like preparing and practicing and all the things that go into performance? Can that push us, like, can we put that first and push us towards this new identity? Or do we bring the identity to it?
Um,
Does that make sense?
uh,
Like,
mm,
like if we're
Feeling
just
that one
going
a little
out
bit.
there, let's just say we're training for a marathon, okay?
Okay.
And we're just focusing on performance,
Mm-hmm.
okay? We're we're doing the distance, we're trying to run faster. We're doing all the things to become a better runner. We're just focusing
Mm-hmm.
on performance, practice, consistency, all those types of things.
Mm-hmm.
And then you run the marathon and you've completed it and you say, I'm a marathon runner.
Mm-hmm.
So technically the focusing on performance came first.
Well, in something like that, yes, but you just beautifully articulated the point that I was going to make, which
Okay.
is you finished the race and now you embrace that identity of that you are a marathon runner now. So, and that's an identity you weren't before,
Right.
but now you are because you did the work.
So that's interesting. And for identity theory in performance psychology, well, I don't think anything's like cut and dry. I think it's kind of like it's dynamic. It's a dynamic relationship between the
Mm-hmm.
two. Maybe as
Totally.
you're becoming a better runner and you're going towards this goal, you're starting to feel like I'm a runner, Especially like, if you just picked it up and you weren't a runner. So I think that it's a
I
lot
can
to it.
I
It's a
can
little
tell
bit
you
to
that
talk about.
yeah, it is. I can tell you from my own my own experience that when I started as a triathlete, I mean, I you want to talk about imposter syndrome? I mean, I was like, what the hell am I doing out here? Um, but over time with preparation and running that template over and over again and exposing myself to to racing and doing the sport, I can say now that my identity within that community is that I'm a very good triathlete. And whereas, when I had started, I was like, I was a newbie. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to race. I mean, I did the preparation that I could finish the race, but I wasn't very good. So over time,
So I think that so we can, in terms of like identity theory and performance, I think performance is just a huge part of it. Like
oh, it
when I
is.
launched this podcast a year ago, I know what I was doing,
Mhm.
right? I mean, this is a year later. I've been practicing. I've had dozens of guests on. It's all
Mhm.
performance based. And so I
Yeah.
think And now I could say, I'm not there yet, but I feel like I'm getting better at it.
Hmm.
So I
Yeah.
think it's important as we have this conversation about identity and giving ourselves permission to grow that there's a large part of it that is focused on performance. Um,
Yeah.
and I just want to make one little note because
Mhm.
a lot of what my theoretical framework for this podcast and my dissertation research is grounded in something called self-determination theory.
Okay.
And so it's important for us to think about as we allowing ourselves to change and create these new identities and learning and growing that we have the control to take these actions in our lives, these
Hmm.
autonomous actions to move our lives forward and to allow ourselves to grow. And getting better at something and performing better at something and going from like maybe being scared to do a triathlon to now saying I'm a great triathlete is just remarkable because you put yourself there at the end of the day, you know?
That to me is truthfully, I mean, I'm like you. I've always, I basically am a teacher, and coaches are teachers. You
Hmm.
know, they're a slightly different version of it, but in our essence is that we are teachers.
Yeah.
And um, in my lifetime of teaching, and I actually was a college teacher for a short period of time. Um, but it's no different from that to when I work with an athlete or I work with a client. To me, that um, that shift when the person is like, I get it,
Hmm.
and you can see that light switch go on. Is that to me is what I live for. That's what has prompted me to do what I do. Why I've done it, the racing and things for me is I enjoy it, but it also is for me my teacher, if you will. But when I work with an athlete or I work with a client or when I used to teach students in a formal classroom setting, if I could just get the light switch to go on for one person to me, then that's like I live my life. That's my life's purpose. And so when somebody finishes their race, and they say, I never thought I could run a marathon, or I never thought I could complete a triathlon, or I never thought I could lose 20 pounds, or what have you, whatever it is, but they did it. And I always say to them, I say, you're the one that did the work. I helped you along the way, but you're the one that did the work.
Hmm.
And, I find myself saying that over and over again to people, and that I am grateful that they say, "Oh, well, I wouldn't have done it if I didn't have you in my life or whatever." And I'm like, "But you're the one that did the work.
Right.
I'm the one that guided you in the process."
You provide the structure.
Yeah.
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 As you're talking, I'm just remembering in that first conversation that we had,
Uh-huh.
one of the connections was that very early on we worked in environments where people kind of told us we weren't good enough. I don't know if you
Yes.
remember we had that conversation and kind of pulled the rug out from underneath us. They had
Yep.
that control and
Mm-hmm.
we both had those very early experiences in a
Mm-hmm.
place of employment. And to
Yes.
hear you talk now, maybe I guess I'm guessing it's 30 years later, maybe 30,
Uh, Not quite 30, like,
25,
but 20, yeah, easily. Yeah.
25 years
Yep.
later, based on my
Yep.
memory on our conversation,
Yep.
is remarkable. You're demonstrating exactly what this conversation is all about. So
Awesome.
congratulations on that.
Oh,
Seriously.
thank you.
Now, well, there's two more, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Nascence. What is
Mm.
it? You said
Um,
it, and I was like, I love this word. What is
yeah.
this? What does that have to do with
Well,
identity?
Nascence is basically, in the traditional Webster's dictionary definition of it is sort of like nubile. Like you're like nascence would be you're at that very beginning stage.
Okay.
It's the newness of
Okay.
it,
Which makes,
right?
yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think with it comes the connotation that it's like yet to be formed. So when I think of nascence, I sort of think of like a lump of clay that has yet to be thrown into, a beautiful bowl or whatever.
Okay.
It's sort of it's there, but it has yet to be formed, and it has. So when you're talking about nascence with a young person or a child, it's like, well, they have yet to be formed, and they come into this world with their DNA and how their inner programming, and then that is that plus their environment, it shapes who they are. So yes, so nace, I like the word because it is a bit more nuanced rather than just saying, well, you're at the beginning stage. It's
Yeah,
like,
I love it too. It's
yeah,
wonderful. I
yeah,
want to ask our audience a couple questions to think about, okay? As we talk
yeah,
about nuisance.
sure.
What identity are you clinging to? Okay.
Mhm.
What identity is trying to emerge? What does it feel like when a new identity begins to emerge before you're fully ready to claim it?
Mm,
This is all new nascence. This is all,
yep.
maybe we're saying the same thing over and over and over again, but however many times we need to say it to help people grow, you
Hmm.
know, giving yourself permission to grow,
Yeah. Yep.
right? Nascence, that's what it is saying in essence.
Yeah.
Shedding
I,
old identities that don't serve you anymore and
hmm.
allowing yourself through nascence to create this emerging self,
Hmm.
giving yourself permission to grow.
I also think it happens, as I said, I believe that it given its natural existence, it's cyclical. And that as you go through your life and you navigate your life, it's cyclical. You you claim an identity and you live it, and sometimes it if it's part of who you are authentically, you take it with you until you're no longer with us. And but sometimes it's not authentic, and you have to recognize it and shed it, and then a new one, that new identity that's more in alignment with who you truly are, that emerges. So it's a cyclical,
I love that.
you know, I, I think, when you're looking at your life at your whole lifespan, but
Hmm.
and I think the older you get, and the more wisdom you have, the more you realize, oh, that identity is not me,
I
and
think
you,
I think it gets harder too as we get older because we have to make peace with that we've changed, right? Especially
Mhm.
within athletics.
Oh yeah. Oh,
Your body's changing. You got
oh
to,
boy.
this is where you're at. This is the moment. Doesn't mean
Yep.
you can't prepare and
Yep.
try to be the best version of yourself at, oh, for me, almost 60, but I'm not in my 20s anymore.
No,
Just
yeah.
have to embrace the change,
Yep.
in a positive way.
Yeah.
The last we've already kind of touched on it, but the last section I have, and I think the best way to help people with this conversation today is to ask you questions to think about, and then take some
Mm.
time to reflect on them. Get a notebook,
Hmm.
record yourself with the
Yeah.
answers. Somebody told me once to ask myself something and record myself multiple times answering the questions. And after
Hmm.
a few recordings, I would finally get to
Oh,
the heart
interesting.
of what I really am thinking. So
Oh, that's interesting.
yeah, one of the guests on my show, it was a great
Oh, I
strategy,
love that.
right? So,
Yeah.
so I'm going to pose some more questions to everybody, and then I'm going to let you kind of wrap the conversation up for us. Make sure we didn't miss anything important, okay? Okay, so here's the questions. Who am I when I'm no longer living according to someone else's definition of me?
Mm,
Okay. What would what let me see how I wrote this. What would change if I permitted myself, I
mm,
allowed myself to change? That's an important step. You need to think
yeah,
about what would
yeah,
change? What would you change in your life?
yeah,
Okay? You have to give yourself permission and the space to
yeah,
change.
yep.
What identity are you currently growing into? Ultimately, we want to become the best versions of ourselves. So we want to ask ourselves, and we want to ask ourselves that repeatedly, not just
Mm-hmm.
one moment in time.
Sure.
And I guess in closing, um, it's just this concept of my new favorite word,
Nascent.
nascence. You're
That's
in
a
my
good one,
mind.
man.
You
Yeah.
know me. You know me well. We're very
Yeah.
similar.
That's got a lot of weight, that word.
Nascence.
Nascence. Yep, exactly.
Nascence.
Um, yeah.
Anyhow, this was a great conversation. It's an important conversation to me as I think about my life going back to get my PhD in my mid 50s. It was a complete
Mm-hmm.
pivot, leap of faith, change, new identity. It was hard. I struggled with it. And
Oh yeah.
listening to you just reaffirms, that it just was the path that I was meant to take. So,
Mm-hmm.
if people
And
can
you did
learn
it.
from, thank you, and people can learn from our experiences and our life journeys, then, like you said, if we can help one person
Mm-hmm.
move their life in a positive direction, then we've done some good work here today.
Well, as I said, we're all going in the same direction, but everyone's path is a little bit different. And you know, you honor that and you honor your path. And I think that that's the best, with compassion, self-compassion, um, and giving yourself the permission and the space, what I call the bandwidth. You have to allow yourself to have the bandwidth to do this kind of work. But if you do allow that, you know, beautiful things happen.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
This was great. Thank you so much for sharing. I want to tell people again how they can, if they want to reach out to you in terms of coaching and to learn more from you, how can people contact you?
Um, well, it's funny you should say that because right at the moment my website is under construction. So, but it will be, it's AE Fitness, but it's ae-fitness.com. And that should be up in the next couple of months. I'm working with a web designer to redesign my website. But I guess probably the best way would be to email me. So that's arwenelainefitness@gmail.com. And if anybody is interested in that, I'd love to have a conversation about that.
And let's spell Arwen.
Arwenelaine.
Okay.
Arwen
And
Elaine.
where are you located?
I am located in northern New Jersey, sort of. I could say I'm in New York City's backyard because I'm about 20 minutes without traffic. I'm about 20 minutes from Midtown Manhattan. So, but I work remotely. I work with people all over the globe, athletes and non-athletes. So even if you're like, I don't want to run a marathon, but I want to work with you, you could totally do that. I work with athletes and non-athletes as well.
Excellent. There you
Yeah.
have it. Another amazing guest on the PhD Journey Unplugged podcast.
Mm.
Real voices, real people, real stories teaching us how to all live our best lives. Thank you so much, Arwen, for
It
being
was
on
a
the show
pleasure.
today. And this was a great conversation. I really appreciate it.
I enjoyed it as well. Thank you so much for taking me on as a guest. I am so happy to have been here with you.
Definitely. All right, everybody. We'll be back. Thank you. Bye.